Welcome to Moon to Moon. Today I am celebrating the 200th episode of this podcast. I have some reflections. I have a song. I have cards. And just taking a moment in my schedule, in my calendar, in my life to sit with you and reflect on Moon to Moon, 200 episodes. So I'm calling this one Ever New because this is a song title that has taken hold of me in the last few months as I've been creating the community homeworld that I'm launching this fall, Living Emergence. In the last episode, you heard me introduce it and tell you about it. I continue to wonder about new ways to tell you about it. Questions have been coming in. I really appreciate your questions because having never done this before and because it's such a very different space than I've ever done before, your questions are really helpful because I'm realizing what I haven't said or what needs to be said, what I even need to think about. So if you have any questions, I'd love to know. It actually really supports me. So thank you. I've been sitting with the questions and sitting with all of the feelings since announcing the big news. And it's great. I've already listened to the last episode twice because that's the nerd that I am for my own podcast. This is something that I've talked about lots with students and mentees over the years because I have been sharing that kind of information about my love of my own voice, which is kind of a wild thing to say. And what I found is that as I began a practice of becoming, which is a practice of emergence at midlife, supported by my mystical path, supported by astrology, supported by the planets, supported by tarot cards, supported by wonderful witches and healers that came into my life. So I found that emergence has a lot to do with voice. And in this way, Moon to Moon became a place for me to experience myself in my voice, which is to say, to experience myself in my power, in myself that's emerging, the me that I'm emerging into in real time, in present time, Moon to Moon. And that in the sharing of whatever wanted to come through and felt most alive through this podcast format. So it became to be that I magnetized a community of listeners who often also became students and community participants who were attracted to my voice, but it became a pathway about discovering their own. And so it came to be then that I realized along the way that so much of the power of my classes, my offerings has to do with voice and the centrality of voice to remembering who we are and allowing who we are to be here, to have effects and impacts on the planet, in our ecosystems, to move our power out into the world and experience ourselves doing that, has something to do with what my work was always about, but unconsciously. Moon to Moon as a space began right after quarantine had started. And it was March of 2020. And I had been creating this new thing in my work, this series of recorded teachings / transmissions. I probably didn't use that word transmission back then, but they were on the signs of the season of autumn and winter. And in those teachings, I would start with the sign and I would sit with the sign and welcome you in. And it was like Libra. Libra is a cardinal sign. And then I would speak the intelligence of cardinal signs. And then I would speak the intelligence of the element of air. And I would speak to how together cardinal air has this intelligence. And then I would speak about how the symbol of Libra is the scales and how the scales further help us get close to the intelligence of the sign as it lives through us, because we are here living under a sun in Libra every year of our lives. And then I would speak about how Libra is given its qualities by the planet Venus. And these are the intelligences of Venus and how Venus helps us in being here. And then I spoke about the tarot, and I would speak about justice and how justice shifts us, and how the Empress, the card associated with Venus, can support us in being in our lives here. And so then I did this for every sign, and many people spoke to me about the impact of these teachings, which then became my workbook series, Living the Signs, which then eventually became more potent and distilled in the book, Living Astrology. But also there was this request to have a podcast. So Moon to Moon began as we were emerging into spring under quarantine. And I realized that this offering that I had been packaging to sell could now become amplified through the podcast format. And so I started Moon to Moon. And the name had already been there for me because I had created a workbook in February of 2020 called Moon to Moon to support anyone that was like who I had been a few years before and was wondering, how do you work with the moon? And I was able to weave astrology, the tarot, inner child healing, and ritual work with the lunar cycle into one singular workbook that someone could take and just get themselves going. And by the way, that workbook is still for sale at my website. It's amazing. So the moon, the name was already there, and it was like, I know, I'm going to start a podcast. It's going to be called Moon to Moon. And then I wrote down, Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one living step at a time. And that's still what we're showing up for here, y'all. That's still what we're showing up for here. The phrasing Moon to Moon has, for me, always meant cycle to cycle in the spiral of moving through the larger wheel of the year inside these smaller wheels, which are the lunar cycle wheels. So we're spiraling around in experience, learning things, encountering life, bumping up against our limitations, bumping up against how the past is always present. But here we are in present time. So how do we relate to these limits? How do we relate to limits that look like fear, that look like resistance, that look like critique, that look like doubt, that look like, oh, so much certainty that we can't change, that the world can't change, that our stories can't change? Whoa. How can I learn how to alchemize these limits into a more expansive way of relating to myself, to my body, to my timeline, to my relationships, and to my experience of participating in the ecosystems that are here, set up all around me, many of which I didn't participate in creating how they are, but which have nonetheless shaped me and conditioned me, and to which I am tied because I am here. And so we go, cycle to cycle, moon to moon. No arrival. There is no arrival. We are always emerging. Emergence is what we're doing month to month. Yes. So that's still what this is. It was my teacher, Adam Summer, who came on to Moon like June of 2021. And he was like, well, what does moon to moon mean? Like my moon to your moon? Like meaning like the part of me that's a moon talking to the part of you that's a moon. And I was like, yes. So it also means this. Thank you. It is such an experience for me to like I feel like my whole mystical entrepreneurial pathway, I haven't really known what I'm doing, and then the people around me reflect it back, and it's like, oh, yes. That is what we're doing here. Moon to moon, my moon speaking to your moon. So beautiful in present time. So I was speaking about this phrasing ever new. And so this has really lit me up. I don't know if you've noticed that in the Instagram that I've put out for Living Emergence, I've been using this song, Ever New, by the singer-songwriter Beverly Glenn-Copeland. So I've been on this whole journey with this song. A couple of years ago, Matt put a version of this song, a reimagining of this song, onto our playlist that we share on Spotify. And then more recently, he put a different version of the song on our playlist. And it took me 2 minutes in to realize, oh my gosh, this is the same as that other song. Then I'm like, what song is this? And it turns out both of those are more modern takes on Beverly Glenn-Copeland's original Ever New. And so as I started to listen to the lyrics and pay attention to what the lyrics were saying, and I was like feeling what the music was doing to my body and the kinds of pictures that it was bringing through for me, I was just started to weep because it was like, oh my God, this is Living Emergence. Ever new. We are ever new. So I can't play these songs for you because, copyright. But I have the audacity to sing them, sing it to you because it's only basically one verse that's just repeated. Um, why would I sing to you? Well, first of all, I've been known to sing before. It's this is a thing that I have done in on Moon to Moon. Here, 200 episodes in, I have many episodes where I break into singing. Um, and this is really cute because really, singing just, I didn't make this up. Singing is just such a heart expanding form of voice. It's such a heightened experience of voice, which is what we're doing here. Singing is a way to allow our spirit to connect to our hearts and to our deep presence and move something through. And unfortunately, like many art forms, many of us are conditioned to think that we can't sing. We actually say that. I can't sing. When you really sit back and hear that, let it enrage you because this is outrageous. We are singing beings. This is what we do. Humans, we sing together. It's how we connect to the spirit of aliveness everywhere, just like other beings, other species do. So we can sing. I mean, unless there's some physical block that makes that impossible. But even then, like I haven't thought about it all the way through, like to have an answer for like, what if you're mute, what does singing look like? Because I think that we can talk about imagining the way we can all sing. When I was a kid, singing was a really big deal to me. Singing with my grandfather, especially, who was a Pisces sun with Jupiter and Sag. We used to always sing together. And I used to always until, he died, I always maneuvered my body to be next to him in church when we would go to church with him so I could experience his spirit, really. Matt has that quality. I like to be in his presence when he sings so that I can feel connected to his spirit. It's just a glorious thing. Like I get really teary when I think about singing. My girls singing, especially when they don't know anyone's listening, is just like, there's not much better than that in being a human being. So singing is amazing. When I was growing up, I was in choir, alto, loved being in choir. So I learned, some basics about keeping up, but, definitely did not make the a cappella group. One of the strong crying memories of high school was going to an audition, and like they just wanted me to start singing, and I was like with the sheet music, and it was like I didn't know how to even begin, and they were like, yeah, bye. And I walked around that hall and just sobbed because I was so sad. Like, are you telling me I can't sing? Yeah, not never really about skill, but teach singing is a thing that you can learn the skill in. Um, I didn't take advantage of that kind of or have the privilege for that kind of one-on-one mentorship, but I see with my daughter who is a theater kid and who's needed to go through voice training, which is so many kids do voice training, both for speech and dialect as well as um, for singing, for music. And it's just like it's remarkable what she's learned to do with her voice from coaching. And so, yeah, it's not like you have a good voice or you don't have a good voice. This too is a skill. The joke from me and Jonathan's living emergence conversation, like this too is a skill. We can cultivate this skill and practice it, and it helps to have mentors. So, ever new. Yeah, ever new. I may cry and then I'll just do another round and then we'll get around where I sing to you these beautiful words that are so inspiring to me for living emergence. And then in the show notes, what I'll do is I'll link to the original, which I think of as the new moon of Ever New. And then I'm going to link to 3 other reimaginings of this song that I think of as the waxing Ever New, the full Ever New, and the waning Ever New. And just like enjoy. Enjoy. This is the vibe. This is the vibe I'm calling in for living emergence. It was already with me. I'm just now conscious of it. Thank you to Beverly Glenn-Copeland for being such a powerful singer, songwriter, and artist. Welcome the spring, the summer rain. Softly turn to sing again. Welcome the bud, the summer blooming flower. Welcome the child whose hand I hold. Welcome to you, both young and old. We are ever new. We are ever new. Welcome the spring, the summer rain. Softly turn to sing again. Welcome the bud, the summer blooming flower. Welcome the child whose hand I hold. Welcome to you, both young and old. We are ever new. We are ever new. Welcome the spring, the summer rain. Softly turn to sing again. Welcome the bud, the summer blooming flower. Welcome the child whose hand I hold. Welcome to you, both young and old. We are ever new. We are ever new. One more time. Welcome the spring, the summer rain. Softly turn to sing again. Welcome the bud, the summer blooming flower. Welcome the child whose hand I hold. Welcome to you, both young and old. We are ever new. We are ever new. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Whew. You feel it. You feel it. It's so pretty. I can't wait for you to hear these different versions because they're so creative the way they play with the original piece. And yeah, it takes like the sort of like the intact intention or like the sincere dream of the original, and then it becomes more dynamic, and it grows, and it plays, and it shifts, and it deconstructs, and it through these other versions. Like, to me, it feels like together it's moon to moon. It's moving through cycles and having the dream, and then being impacted by the environment in ecosystems and life and relationships and how we change. And so, but then we come back again and are ever new. We are ever new. We are ever new. So, yes, that is the song of the episode, Ever New by Beverly, Glenn-Copeland. Thank you. So, yeah, where do I even go from here? Where do we even go from here? To the next living step. Yeah. So I'm not going to take a whole long time with this episode. I've got another episode I'll be dropping soon, and many more coming. Got a lot of really fun people coming onto Moon to Moon to continue these collective conversations where we're taking living emergence like Ever New and amplifying it, expanding it, moving it around, changing it, deconstructing it through the lenses of the different voices that I'm bringing on, which is a micro version of the macro experience that will happen inside of the community home world, where everyone is bringing their own voices and their presence and their yearnings and their own lenses through which they experience and amplify living emergence. So thank you so much for supporting and celebrating Moon to Moon, whether you are a new listener or you've been listening for years. Thank you. The reviews have always been just so meaningful to me. If you've never looked through the reviews. They're so beautiful. If you've never contributed one, now would be a great time in honor of the 200 episodes. Thank you so much for doing that. This space has taken on different flavors as the wheel has turned and as I've shifted, as my business has shifted, as my interests have shifted. And I've always allowed this space to be very emergent. I made a deal with myself when I first came up with this podcast that is I am never going to make this a should space. This is going to be a place that I come to because I want to be of service to this place. I want to speak through this place. I want to connect through this space. I have things that want to move through and out in the world and wanting to experience myself as someone who shows up to that and sees it through. So sure, there have been many times where, I've got a lot I'm doing, I'm holding a lot, and like, oh, gotta schedule another moon, gotta do moon to moon today. And like, my feeling though is like when I choose to show up to something, because I have demonstrated to you, but more importantly to myself, that I make a commitment to what I am excited to show up for and to see through. Even if I'm tired, even if I'm like, whoa, I got all these things I got to do today, or whatever. The showing up to it is always my privilege, and it is always something that I have the energy to do. Like, the energy is always there for what you really want, which is why it's so powerful to get clear on what you want, which is why further it's so powerful to unshame so that you can get better information about what you want, because shame is what separates us from that information. The more you get clear on what you want, the more you don't say yes and you don't do things that you don't want, thereby freeing you to give all of that energy, even when you're tired, to what you are excited to steward and to see through. So this space to me has always felt so alive because, sometimes I won't come on here for like 6 weeks. When there's nothing to say, there's nothing to say. When there's no energy to do it, it's not done, And I thank you listeners for that, because I feel like a lot of people are afraid to give themselves that kind of flexibility because there's this idea that the audience won't like it, or the audience will leave, or the audience will find it chaotic, or the audience won't find you reliable, or the audience will be mad at you if you change things up, if you go quiet for a while, if you don't do something in a regular way. That is a picture that we've inherited from scarcity conditioning. Scarcity being one of the deepest, most violent colonial consequences that makes our own relationship to abundance and the fact of us as abundance so hard to see sometimes. But I've just always felt connected to listeners, to an audience that are super down for the way I want to show up, and ready to play, just like let's play however you play, And that's something I would invite any of you who are thinking about having a podcast or who have a podcast to imagine from your audience is like, we are the ones who actually create the pictures of what our audience is. And what would it be like to trust that your audience wants precisely what is most alive and exciting and nourishing for you always? And that they're celebrating and cheerleading that, and nobody's mad at you. Nobody's gonna be mad at you. Because I think, like in anything where we are so vulnerable as to put our name out there in the world in some way, the way we experience that participation very much has something to do with the way we imagine the audience of that participation. And so for me, surrendering to pictures of generosity, surrendering to just sweetness and joy and delight has made participating vigorously so much more easeful than, like, I don't know that I could do all that I do if I pictured a different audience, you know? And that is something that we actually can do for ourselves. Like, we are the ones with the agency to decide how our audience sees us. That's in our agency. I'm always looking for where I can find more agency, because that's where my power is in the choice to look for it. It's in the choice to go look for my agency. And my agency as a podcast host is in always seeing it as a success, as long as I'm authentically listening and showing up from a passion place of showing up where my energy is, honoring my energy and honoring that my energy is what creates the resonance. And the size of my audience does not mean anything. Resonance means everything. And if I'm in connection to the resonance with my audience because I trust them generously, then there will be resonance, period. Yeah. So for sure, like, that fact has led to more students, more growth, more community through pay portals. And if you see your podcast as a place to just get people who will pay you, then that's the energy, you know, and then there's less resonance. But in turn, that is what happens, is when the resonance is the focus, so comes the generosity through the pay portal, is what I found. But it's like, where to put your attention, that's where the thing grows. If the attention is on resonance, that is what grows. If the attention on is, if you listen to this, maybe you'll come to my thing, then that the energy is more there. And then it creates a picture of tension with the audience and less of a picture of singing resonance, which is truly what's way more fun, you know? So this too is a skill. This too is a skill to practice, because, you know, we have a lot of scarcity that runs through us, and its effects are felt in the body. And through practice, we cultivate the skill to relax those dials. Like, I see it as almost like a set of dials on like a plane or like a ship, you know, like the captain's got all these dials, right? For me, before I record, I like to go and, basically set the dials to generosity, set the dials to delight, set the dials to my absolute love for the topic that's going to be at hand today, set the dials to the joy of feeling my truth running through me and sharing it. Whatever it is, like setting those dials and noticing like where there's contraction, where there's fear, where there's something in the body, because when you set that right beforehand, it allows the body to soften and open, which then allows the voice to come through more clearly. Like the channel opens through the body from the lower part of the belly all the way through you, through the throat. And this is a practice because there are times where you may notice like, ooh, right there, that's where I was a little contracted. I could feel myself contracted there. And the practice is just like, that's okay. Hey, look at us being humans. We're humans. Yes. The conditioning is real. It's okay. Look at the bravery. Look at the bravery of showing up anyway, in the vulnerability of sharing the voice. Resetting the dials back to trust, delight, generosity, wonder, joy, passion, exuberance for what's ready to come through. Thank you. This is really what is at the heart of what I want us to be practicing together in living emergence, is the experience of practicing your voice in front of others, but just as important, the experience of witnessing others sharing their voices in these kinds of spaces and these kinds of rooms. It's not just your own vocalizations that will impact what changes for you in being in the space, but it is also in your role as witness that also brings your voice forward differently. That also does something to your body to open and soften it and allow something else to emerge through you when you are ready to speak it. This has always been what we're doing in my spaces, well, particularly the community-based ones. I teach about this in more like the workshop spaces. I'll teach it, but we practice it in the community containers. And that's what this is in a year-round way, so that you can be with yourself through all 12 signs of the year, through all 4 seasons, through all 13 moons. So if you are interested in joining us, if you're hungry to join us, please continue to stay tuned for more info. The big door opens in November 4th through 20th. There's a discount price on the 4th. If you are eligible for the soft launch in October, you've received emails by now. If you haven't received an email, it means you're not on my waiting list, or somehow you rejoined and like the tag didn't sync to get you on the list, so you could reach out to my team. Because that is the only way to get in through the soft launch in October, is to be on the mailing list to get the link to join, because the course page is not going to be completed until the end of this month for the grand opening in November. It's so fucking exciting. Like, I feel like every day is Christmas Day right now. And I'm just like giddy with all the gifts I've got to share, and giddy to like basically give it to all my younger selves. It's feeling very, to me, like that. What I hear is just like my younger self, just like, oh, I always wanted a place to exist just like this. Like, it really exists. And for all the humans who resonate with that younger version of me, including the present time version, who's so happy that a space like this exists in this world, I welcome you. I welcome you, both young and old. We are ever new. We are ever new. Thank you.